Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price, $1 million man. Everybody's got a price, $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price, $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo, and we are back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And, of course, I could never do it without the man himself, the master of the $1 million dream, the Hall of Famer, Ted DiBiase. Ted, what's going on, man?
Hey, buddy, it's you. So, I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, and of course, the $1 million man would say, I hope you all have a very prosperous New Year.
Speaking of what the $1 million man would say, you and I were just talking about it as we got going here. Fox News kind of gave you a shout out. What's the name of the guy who did it?
Jesse Waters.
Jesse Waters. So the video is available on Ted's social media right now, but he essentially said it was something to the effect of like, well, everybody's got a price. Just ask the $1 million man.
Something like that. Or he said, so says the $1 million man. Hold on a second here.
Yeah, well, we can play it.
Jurisdiction in 2 countries anywhere in the world. We have the critical minerals, we have the energy, we have the electricity that America needs. And there's only one place I'd want to sell it to, and that's the U.S.
Well, you could sell it to us, or we could all own it together, and that's a choice we can all make together. You say this isn't for sale, but everything has a price. The $1 million man says that. Can you think of this?
Like I've always said, everybody's got a price for the $1 million man, even Jesse Waters.
Even Jesse Waters.
Oh, that's good.
Man, unbelievable. How cool is it for you to get all these years later, you're still getting shout outs and recognition for what you did?
I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, I don't know, man. That's just wow. I'm saying, Marcus says, see, today is the 8th. 10 days from now is my birthday, and I will be 71 years old.
Ooh.
And I'm still getting shout outs.
Unbelievable, man. Like, I know that probably back in the day, it's like you guys are just on the road and you're hustling around trying to get from city to city and just work a match and stay healthy. And there's a lot of variables going on for you at the time. Like, I probably never, ever in a million years would have thought, 30, 35 years later, people are still going to be talking about me on national television.
Yeah. Never dreamed it.
All right, Ted, we can start to jump into these notes. Today, it's our 20th edition of Ask Ted Anything. As always, your listeners brought us a bunch of questions. We'll get through as many as we can. I do want to remind folks that if they have a question, you can get it on the show by posting on Ted's social media. Ted will post a prompt there. But also, maybe the easiest route is to just DM me on X. And you can find me there at Marcus P. D'Angelo. But if you prefer to respond to the $1 million man himself, which I wouldn't blame you if you did, you can find Ted all over social media at MDM Ted DiBiase. I also do want to remind you folks that we are at YouTube, at youtube.com/at Golden Era Network. And it's not just the $1 million man on that YouTube page. We've got Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who shares the page with us. And Jim has a podcast that airs exclusively on that page. It's the Hacksaw Hour with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And our next episode that Jim and I are going to be doing is about Royal Rumble 1990, which is a subject that Ted and I are going to cover. And it's the subject that's being covered with Jake on my other podcast, The Snake Pit. So you're going to get 3 perspectives from 3 guys who lived it 35 years ago at the Royal Rumble. So you don't want to miss that. So get over there and get subscribed. It's youtube.com/at Golden Era Network. All right, Ted, with that, we can jump into these notes. The first question is from Jim Allers, I think is how you say it. And Jim asks, what was your favorite music to listen to when you were on the road?
Wow. That's a pretty good question. I've always liked rock and roll, and I like a variety of music. Oh my gosh. I was a fan of the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, great one.
I was a fan of, oh my gosh, Fleetwood Mac.
All right.
You know, and I was definitely a fan of their lead singer.
Stevie Nicks.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
a pretty good looking girl.
Yes, she was.
And could really sing. She could belt it out. And you know, and I go all the way from, you know, to me, and I think I've probably said this on here before, but the greatest entertainer, the most popular entertainer, I think that has ever walked the earth, and still to this day has many followers, and he has followers now because they watch what he did, is Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, it's just unreal, you know, how popular he was. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just because that, you know, I mean, if everybody across all genres of entertainment, you know, I think he was probably the most famous of all.
Man, I'm glad you brought up Elvis Presley, because today, as we're recording this, it's January 8th, and today it actually marks what would have been the 90th birthday of Elvis Presley. I just saw that online today.
Really?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Today. He
Today
was born
would
in 1935.
He would have been how old?
90 years old today.
90 years old today. That sounds about right, because I'm 71. So 71, 81, 91, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
20 years, you know. So when he was 20 years old, I was just born.
Yeah.
And when he was 40 years old, I was 20 years old.
You were born in 54. He was born in 35. So yeah, it's he would have actually been. Yeah.
And I didn't know his birthday was in January. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
it's January 8th. Mine's the 18th.
Yeah, just 10 days later. So
Yeah.
it's awesome that you brought him up. Ted, a question that I hear a lot with the wrestlers that I work with on these podcasts is always, hey, what was the best road song? So you named some great bands there, the Doobie Brothers, Fleetwood Mac. A lot of guys name the same exact song whenever they're asked this question. So I'm wondering what your road song was, and then I'll tell you what everybody else has been saying.
Oh, gosh. A favorite road song?
Mm-hmm. Any that you feel like encapsulated life on the road as a wrestler, or whatever the best.
Oh, gosh. It's funny. It's like, you know, when you ask me the question, I just go blank and go, there's so many songs.
I know. I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
Like I remember the songs, but I can't remember their titles sometimes.
Well, the song that most guys name whenever they're asked that question is Turn the Page by Bob Seger. If you know that one. It's it's basically life on the road is what the song is about.
Turn the Page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And that was one of my favorite songs. And for the same reason, because it describes perfectly in a song what we do. And basically, he was probably singing that song to himself because, you know, rock and roll artists, you know, anybody that performs like that, that's what it is. You know, it's the next town, it's the next show, it's the next, you know, party or whatever you're going to do. Turn the page. You get up tomorrow and go do it again.
It's crazy, man. Like, and when I would encourage any listeners who haven't heard that song or haven't heard it in a long time to go and listen to it and think about it in terms of wrestling. There's even one moment where he's singing about walking into like a diner or something, and he's walking in there with long hair, and all the guys are looking at him, like sizing him up, seeing if they could like fight him. And I'm sure that that's not necessarily because of long hair, but if you're a wrestler, you're a big guy walking into a restaurant or a bar, a lot of guys take a look at you and say, like, wonder if I could take that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, we've got a related question, which I'll jump to right now. My coworker and IWC, International Wrestling Cartel legend, he's a great wrestler, super, super over. He's got he comes out and gets like a Dusty Rhodes type reaction. It's incredible. His name is Jock Sampson. And he's got a question for you. He asked, what's the best Mid-South bar fight you ever saw or were involved in? Did you ever see like Jim Duggan or Terry Gordy, you know, throwing down at the bar?
Oh gosh, I didn't see that. We were never involved in a lot of bar fights, and it's kind of like I think there was only really one moment when somebody said something to me. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I literally grabbed him by the shirt and I picked him up. I mean, and when your adrenaline gets going, I mean, I was holding him against the wall, and his feet were this. I can't, his feet were like 2 feet off the ground, and I've got him punched against that wall, and I was like, I just read him the riot act, and I said, you want some of me? Come on.
It's part of the era you came from too, because like again, for folks that don't know, in the Mid-South Territory, if you got your ass beat in a bar and Bill Watts found out about it, he'd fire you because you can't be just getting beat up by like a commoner.
No, and I'll be honest with you, none of us ever got our asses kicked by anybody. But yeah, you had to. Yeah, there were just moments, and by the grace of God, I didn't have too many of those moments, and I don't think most of us did. But again, especially if you're the heel, you're the bad guy. Then you're probably going to run into more of that than if you're the guy who everybody likes. Babyface. So anyway.
Well, next up, we've got Colby Neighbors, who asked a question that I'm personally a really big fan of, Ted. He asked, when will you become Marcus's full-time manager on the Indies? I love this question.
Well, I love Marcus, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I don't know if the indie promoters are going to be paying enough for Ted to be on the road with me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's funny though. Trevor is up next. What was Ted's cocktail of choice back in the day? Ted, what kind of liquor drinks were you putting down?
For the most part, I was a beer guy, and if I did have a cocktail, a mixed drink, I think it was like a vodka cranberry.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's what I would do. That was my alcohol drink, but most of the time I drank beer, and because a lot of the times we weren't actually in bars that much in Mid-South. Why? Because when you got through wrestling, your ass was back in the car and you were either headed home or headed to the next town, and that's why most of the guys would have a cooler in the back, and they would get their case of beer and put it on ice. And, of course, usually you get four guys in the car, and all of you are drinking beer. So a case of beer wouldn't last very long.
I think you probably have to stop and get another one.
But that's what we did.
Man, this sounds like good times. Now, did you have a beer of choice back in the day, or just whatever was cheap and available?
I've always been a Coors guy.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I just regular Coors is what we drink. And that's when I started drinking in high school, that's what I drank was Coors. It was the deal.
Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, of course, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. You ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. As of right now, this is how things are shaping up for Wild Card Weekend. The Houston Texans are at +3 against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are at +9.5 against the Ravens. The Denver Broncos are at +8.5 against the Bills. The Packers are at +4.5 against the Eagles. The Commanders are at +3 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Los Angeles Rams are at +2.5 against the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of really exciting action here coming up for Wild Card Weekend, and you can get in on it. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code EGAP. That's code EGAP for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. All right. Next up, we've got Sandalphon Frostburn, one of my favorite names of our listeners. And Sandalphon asks, what was the bloodiest match you were ever involved in? Any stick out for you, Ted?
We did the deal. I want to say it was actually on television. In Shreveport, I think. I can't remember for sure, but I just know I went deep. We would take in the razor blades, the old razor blades, and then we would cut those down and tape them, to where just the head of it was sticking out just enough to get in, and some guys would do just once, or sometimes we would do a couple times, but anyway, but it was, and I mean, it's like I hit a vein or something.
Oh boy.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, it was just, it's like it was like squirting. It was.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But anyway.
Now, were you in the ring with Jim Duggan by chance?
Yeah.
I feel like the two of you had a lot of like bloody matches.
Yeah, we did. It might have been Jim. Yeah.
I don't know if you have heard this from Jim before, but he always likes to tell the story about getting in the ring with you, and he was supposed to get color, and you're working him over, and he blades, and you go, Jim, it's not coming, do it again. And so Jim is like, well, shit. So boom, he hits it again. You're like, Jim, come on, man. Come on, get some color. He's like, okay. So he's all of a sudden, he's like, bam, bam, bam. And the way that Jim puts it, he's like, then I look down, and all of a sudden, I'm standing in a puddle of blood. He said that you were ribbing him.
Yeah. I did that to him. I was like, come on, Duggan. I mean, you're not a wuss. Get some. Yeah,
that's great stuff.
Yeah, that was it was a good story.
I'm sure he was walking around with athletic tape all over his forehead for a few days.
Yep.
Next up, we've got James, who asks, who is the stiffest opponent you ever stepped into the ring with?
The stiffest. Oh my God.
Boy, Mid-South, probably a long list of guys.
Wow. Well, nobody that I started with, because all those guys were polished pros.
I've heard that one-man gang would really bring it.
Well, I had no problem with gang at all. I would probably have to say the ultimate idiot. I mean, Warrior.
You ever hear the story about Warrior working with Andre, and apparently Warrior kept bringing it on those patented clotheslines of his, and Andre, I think, warned him maybe twice, and then finally Andre had enough, so Warrior hits the ropes and comes off. Here he comes with the clothesline, and all Andre did apparently was just stick his fist straight out, and Warrior ran right into it, and I think knocked himself out.
Yeah, I wish I had been there for it. Yeah.
It'd probably be a good one to see.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got a pretty interesting one. It's from Hawkeye, who asks, "What are your thoughts on Hulk Hogan getting booed off the stage on Raw?" So, Ted, I don't imagine that you were tuned in to Raw on Netflix this past Monday, were you?
I wasn't,
Okay, so
but
Hulk,
I heard that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
went, what's up with that? I mean, I personally, you know, I can't imagine how one of the most famous guys who's ever been in wrestling could get booed off the stage.
well, it has everything to do with the comments that he had made surfacing years ago, the racist comments that he had made. And so I think that a lot of fans still harbor a lot of resentment for it, because it's like this was everybody's hero. It didn't matter what color, religion, sexual preference. Everybody looked up to Hulk Hogan. He was their hero. And then he comes out and he makes these racist comments. And I think that to this day, it's a lot of the fan base is not and will not forgive him.
Okay, I was never aware of any racist comments.
Really? Man, it was big news. I want to say it was back in like 2014, somewhere in there, 2016. I can't remember, but it had come out that Hogan had been making racist comments. His daughter, who was in the music industry, I believe that she was dating a young African American man, and Hulk didn't like it, and he wound up using the N-word, and this leaked.
Oh,
Yes, and so it torpedoed Hulk's career. WWE has done everything they can to try to rehabilitate his image and get him back out there, but I think a lot of fans are still really harboring a lot of resentment, and understandably.
I can't believe that. I never heard that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Feel for anybody getting booed off stage and having to deal with that, but like, I don't know, man. I know the WWE, they've been trying to kind of fit this square peg into a round hole for a while now. Like, it's, hey guys, it's Hulk Hogan. Remember how much you loved him when you were a kid? And I think a lot of people do, but then a lot of people on the other side of it are like, yeah, but he said this really horrible thing and we all heard it. You know?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, all right, interesting. I'm equal parts glad I could smarten you up and bummed out to remind myself about that with Hulk.
Well, I mean, and I think, and I don't know how many years ago that was, but I would think, because I do know, and I heard about his conversion, his, submitting to Jesus Christ and becoming a Christian. I was excited about that.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that must have happened after. I'll put it this way: if the Hulkster really became a Christian, he never would have said that. No. So it's like, and again, we all make mistakes, but I never saw anything. That's the other thing, is that I never saw that surface in terms of his attitude. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because we got a lot of black guys in the wrestling business, and most all of them are some of the best guys I've ever known. And I've never seen him. I've never seen that out of him. And gosh, I'm just that. Boy, you just hit me with a shocker there, buddy.
Yeah, I'll have to send you like an article on it or send you the audio so you can kind of figure it out for yourself a little bit. Because I don't know if I really did the whole thing justice with my explanation, but I do know that it's out there and it exists. And boy, 10 years later, a lot of folks are not ready to forgive the Hulkster. Next up, we've got Jammer986, who asks, how do you gimmick a slap in wrestling and make it look real? Or do you just haul off and slap the guy?
Well, here's the thing. You know what? An open hand slap it's an open hand slap. And, obviously the guy who's getting slapped knows when it's coming, and he just braces for it. It's, there's no way to fake a slap.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can, like, and like the way that we would punch, it was not totally closed fist. It was kind of like a loose, and when it looks like we're hitting the jaw, but where we're actually hitting is like right in here.
Yep.
Right in here. And either you're really good at it or you're not. And everybody loved me because I was really good at it.
You got a great working punch. And yeah, it's the big difference between punching and slapping somebody in the ring is like when you punch somebody in the ring, you're making the noise with your feet a lot of the time. So that's like the big boom that you hear in the ring. And so that gives that impact. If you stomp your foot whenever you're slapping somebody, that doesn't really pass the sniff test because everybody knows what a slap sounds like.
Yeah, and obviously, if you ever saw a real fight, when somebody punched somebody, you didn't hear it.
No.
So anyway.
That's interesting. It's a good question though, because it's something I never really thought about. Is when you slap somebody, it's how do you just haul off and slap the shit out of the guy and apologize.
And anytime I was we would talk about that in a match, and it's kind of like your opponent knows it's coming. That's the only thing. He's like, okay, I'm ready for it. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the important thing. You don't want to surprise somebody with it.
Oh no,
they probably would appreciate it.
Oh no, it would. If they unless they knew it was coming, it would almost be an insult.
Right. Yeah. Gray Skull with weird spelling is up next, and they ask, in late 1994. Wow, all right, this is a good one. In late 1994, when you were managing Tatanka, he was allegedly involved in an incident in Anaheim, California, where he was blamed for dropping halcyon in a girl's drink and shaving half of her head. Tatanka would be suspended in 1995 after police got involved, but rumor has it that it was the gigolo, Jimmy Del Rey, who was behind the whole thing. Ted, any memories of this incident?
None.
Wow. All right.
I mean, wow. That's another story that I failed to know about. This is like it's news to me right now. I'm going, Tatanka.
It's apparently it wasn't him. So this is always the story that I had heard, and obviously I wasn't there, so it's gonna sound like I'm saying Jimmy Del Rey did it, but I don't know. I was 8 years old or whatever, but the story goes that they were at a hotel in Anaheim, and a girl, of course, was back there with some of the boys. Somebody, as they did back in the day, drops some halcyon in her drink. She passes out, and so they shave half of her head. She comes to in the morning, freaks out when half of her damn head is shaved, gets the police involved, and somehow Tatanka is the one who gets pinched. Now, was he in the room? I think that's a possibility, and maybe that's what the girl remembers is like, well, Chris Chavis was in the room with me, and so that's why he gets the blame. But rumor has it that it was actually the gigolo Jimmy Del Rey who did the job himself. So that's the full story as I know it.
Well, I don't know, and I wasn't there, but to me, I would say Jimmy Del Rey sounds a lot more like the person who probably did it.
Yeah, it's we aren't going to say it was Jimmy Del Rey. However, I would feel comfortable saying I don't think that that's the kind of thing that Tatanka would do. I know him a little bit, and does not seem like that kind of a guy.
No, and again, that's what I'm basing what I'm saying on. And I don't know Jimmy Del Rey that well either, but anyway, that's one that I guess I'll never know.
Yeah. It also points to how hard and fast you were running back in the day, because again, he was in the $1 Million Corporation during that period, and he got suspended for a period of time. So like, they had you with King Kong Bundy, they had you with Bam Bam Bigelow, so they were just like pulling you in all these different directions, and it's just like, oh yeah, Chris hasn't been around for a while. All right, guys, it's 2025, and it's time for you to get your mojo back in the bedroom with a little help from BlueChew. It is time for you to have better sex, and BlueChew is the way to go. BlueChew is putting its money where its mouth is and offering you a month for free. And guys, the process is real simple. Just sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. BlueChew tablets are made right here in the US of A and prepared and shipped direct to your door. Boy, let me tell you, you will see that mail carrier coming and come sprinting down your driveway. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready when the opportunity arises. The best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy anymore. Look, the question's always the same whenever I tell people about BlueChew. They ask, does it work? Let me tell you, brother, it works. You're going to be called an Eagle Scout the way you're going to be pitching tents after you try out BlueChew. And BlueChew is on a mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. That is what they're after. That's what they've been telling me. It's time for you to find out for yourself with a month for free. Guys, think about this. You could be missing out on the very best sex of your entire life without even knowing about it. BlueChew is worth the try to at least set your mind at ease on that. They say that there's nothing sexier than confidence, and BlueChew can help deliver it where it counts. We can all relate to wanting to feel more confident, especially in the bedroom, and BlueChew is here for you. It's time, guys. Make your life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of BlueChew free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank BlueChew for sponsoring the podcast. Michael Hampton is up next. Did you ever work with George the Animal Steel? And what do you think of George?
I did work with George the Animal Steel, and it was great. George was, as a person, he was a great person. And George Animal Steel, he's like, you see this guy who acts like a total, misfit, right?
Uh-huh.
He was a teacher.
Yeah. I did hear that up in like New York.
George Animal. Hey, he was a great person. He played his part better than I guess anybody. I mean, because it takes a lot to act like that. But no, he was a great guy. He was a great guy. I have nothing but respect for him. And again, here's a guy who was. This is a professional wrestler, and then he'd go to school and be a teacher.
Could you imagine? I'm just trying to think of some of the male teachers that I had. It's like you see them in school and they're like wearing like the nice shirt and up there teaching you stuff, and then you turn on your TV and they're there with like a green tongue and they're eating a turnbuckle.
Yeah, well, he was a good guy.
Yes, yeah. I had the pleasure of meeting George once. Great guy.
Yeah.
And also he was an agent behind the scenes too, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he did that too. He he and another guy that was a wrestler right before it all broke loose. And the first time I went to New York, it was like when I was still pretty young, and nobody even talks much about the first time I ever went to New York because I wasn't there very very long, but. The other guy that I thought was a great worker was Chief Jay Strongbow.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and he ended up being an agent too for Vince, and he was very good, and a good guy.
I've heard a lot of the guys put over Strongbow as being a fantastic agent. Another guy who went on to be an agent who I know that Jake didn't have a super high opinion of, so I'll get your opinion. Rene Goulet. Did you get to spend a lot of time around him?
No, and I wouldn't think he would be much of an agent.
No, it's Jake didn't. I don't think Jake buried him or anything, if I remember right. But he was just like, yeah, he just didn't really do much.
Yeah, he was just.
Well, next up we've got King Ivers, who asks, aside from Bret Hart, who do you think is the greatest Canadian wrestler?
Oh God.
Well, that's an interesting one.
Canadian, other than Bret.
Owen.
Probably. Because Owen he came from the same family, and God bless him, what happened was horrible, but yeah, I would say Owen. I would say his brother. I mean, like me, both of those guys grew up in the wrestling business, and like it was more than, just a job. It was like their life, their lifestyle. And, and then when the tragedy with Owen was just golly, couldn't have happened to a better guy. I mean, he was liked by everybody, and he was also he was a prankster.
Mm-hmm.
Owen would do these elaborate ribs that would have everybody, and including whoever the rib was on, would end up laughing about it. So anyway,
Mm-hmm. And nobody was safe. He was like ribbing his own father and stuff. It's hilarious.
Yeah. So, but no, Owen was. I would have to say, it's kind of like, now the only other, I guess the Rougeaus, they were okay, they were, but I wouldn't, I just wouldn't put them in that category.
I know that Jake would probably say Ronnie Garvin would be his selection.
Oh,
Counts him among the best ever.
Canadian. Oh God, yeah, okay. I just switched. I mean, hands down, Ronnie Garvin.
He was really good.
Oh, really good. Yeah, and I forgot that he was Canadian.
Now, Ted, we were talking about Owen and Bret, and I actually hear a lot of people say that Owen was a better wrestler than Bret was. Do you have an opinion on that? Do you feel like Owen was better in the ring than his brother?
I don't know that. I don't know that I paid attention enough to try to. I would say he was at least equal to his brother, but I don't know. I mean, Bret was he was good. I mean, I had some matches with Bret. To me, it's all because of the way we look at wrestling business. We both grew up in it. We grew up in it, and Bret's dad was the promoter of the territory up there in Calgary, and had been a worker himself, and of course, and then my dad was a wrestler too. So, and I think when you grow up in something like that, you have. I think you have a little more respect for it than just somebody who comes in that off the street.
Jake brought up a really good point when he was talking about how he learned wrestling so quickly as he was coming up. And he said, well, I had the benefit, which most second generation guys do, including Bret and including yourself. I had the benefit of getting to be a referee for a while, which means that I was in the ring with these guys and I was hearing them call spots and hearing how the crowd would react to them and how they would improvise. And he said, that really helped me.
Hey, you know what? Ditto. Me too, because I was in the ring, not just every night. I was the referee. I didn't just have a match. I refereed all the matches.
Wow.
Like if there were 6 matches on the card, I was the referee.
That is awesome.
I was in the ring with these guys night after night after night. And Jake's right. I mean, we learned a lot about the business before we ever put on trunks, just by being that guy in the ring.
I'm sure Bret benefited the same way. So it's really cool how like a lot of you second generation wrestlers got that start. So what a leg up you guys had, huh?
Yeah, it was good.
Hey, so speaking of Bret, this was a question that I asked Jake on Ask Jake Anything, and it kind of happened organically, like it is today, where it's like it was something I was reminded of as we were talking about Bret, and now I'm going to ask you as we're talking about Bret. I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be, but just hear out the scenario to really kind of get your head around it first. I have a friend who's going to remain nameless who swears that the Ultimate Warrior was a better wrestler than Bret Hart. Now you're going to ask why. The reason why, in his justification, is he says, of course, Bret could work circles around the Warrior. The Warrior was nowhere close to being as good in the ring as he was. He said, but as a professional wrestler, the objectives are to draw money and to be a big, identifiable character. And he said Warrior had the leg up in both of those two categories over Bret Hart. And I'm like, okay, an argument could be made then, if that's the objective in professional wrestling, that okay, as a professional wrestler, he's higher up on the list. I don't know, Ted. What are your thoughts on that line of thought?
Mm-hmm. Warrior had size, and he had a look and everything, but he had nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason that he was a success is because guys like Bret Hart and me and many others took that idiot in the ring and told him what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And had he not had that, he would have never been shit.
Not to mention, and this is the point that Jake made whenever I brought this up, he said, you give anybody the kind of opportunities that Warrior was given, he's like, and they'll shine. You feature them on TV the way that he was, give them the opportunities. He's like, imagine somebody in Warrior's role who is a polished worker and is good on the mic.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's,
again, you heard it from two guys who grew up in the business.
There you go. So I'm going to tell his friend to stick that theory right up his ass.
Yeah, good. Tell him I said so.
I will. Straight from the $1 Million Man. All right, that is going to wrap us up for this week. Another really fun episode of Ask Ted Anything in the books. Man, I love doing these because you just never know what direction we're going to move in. And guys, if you didn't hear your question asked on there and you submitted one, don't get discouraged because we had a bunch left there and we roll them over episode to episode. So hang in there. Your question might still be on there. And Ted, always a pleasure to chat with you. And I look forward to doing it again next week.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Marcus. And I want to say thank you to all the fans who tune in. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope some of you learned something from what we're talking about. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't be here if you weren't a wrestling fan, so I appreciate it very much. And as I go, I just must remind you always that everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
Catch you guys next time right here on Everybody's Got a Pod.
$1 Million dreams, tell them all good night. Everybody's got a pod, everybody's got a price. DBI.